I need to preface this by saying I've never believed in anything supernatural. I'm an electrician. I deal in volts and amps and things that make sense. But I can't explain what happened in my apartment building last winter, and I've stopped trying. I moved into the building in October. Unit 4B, third floor of a 5-story walk-up in a quiet part of town. The building was old but well kept, the kind of place where you nod at people in the hallway and never learn their names. Unit 4A, right across from mine, had a faded brass nameplate that read, G. Holloway. The first week, I never saw anyone go in or out of 4A. I figured the tenant worked nights, or traveled a lot. Then I started noticing things. Small things. The doormat outside 4A was always damp, even on days it hadn't rained. The light under the door flickered on every night around 11 p.m., like clockwork, and stayed on until just before dawn. One night I knocked. I told myself I was being neighborly, but honestly, I was curious. No answer. But I heard movement inside, slow, dragging footsteps, like someone walking with great effort across the floor. I knocked again. The footsteps stopped. Whoever was in there stood completely silent, just on the other side of the door, for almost a full minute. I could feel it. That specific kind of silence that isn't empty, it's occupied. I left. I asked the building super about it the next day. He gave me a strange look and told me 4A had been vacant for 2 years. The previous tenant, an elderly man named Gerald Holloway, had died in that apartment. Nobody found him for almost 3 weeks. The nameplate just never got changed. I told him I'd heard footsteps. He didn't even blink. He just said, "Yeah. People hear that. Don't knock again," and walked off like that was a perfectly normal thing to say. I should have left it alone. I didn't. Over the next month, the pattern got worse. The light under the door burned every night at 11 p.m. sharp. Sometimes I'd hear what sounded like a television, the murmur of a voice without words, just rhythm and tone, like a conversation playing in another room of a house you weren't in. Once, I heard someone humming. It was off-key and slow, the kind of tune an old man might hum to himself while doing dishes that no longer exist. The night everything changed, I was coming home late, maybe 1 a.m. The hallway light was out, not broken, just out, like someone had unscrewed it. As I got to my door, I noticed 4A's door was open. Not wide open. Just a few inches. Light spilled out into the dark hallway in a thin yellow line. I should have gone straight into my apartment. Instead, I walked toward it. Through the gap, I could see a sliver of the room. There was a television, old, the boxy kind, playing static. There was a recliner, and in the recliner sat a shape. I want to be clear that I didn't see a face. I didn't see clear details. I saw an outline, a silhouette of a man sitting very still, facing the static, with his head tilted slightly toward the door. Toward me. And then the humming started. That same off-key tune, low and tired, coming from the shape in the chair. I didn't run. I want to say I ran, because that would make more sense, but I didn't. I backed away slowly, one step at a time, the way you do when you're not sure if something has noticed you and you don't want to find out. I got into my apartment, locked the door, and sat with my back against it until the sun came up. The humming stopped at exactly 5:58 a.m. I know because I was staring at my phone the entire time. The next morning, I went to check the hallway. The door to 4A was shut. Locked, when I tried the handle. The doormat was damp again. I moved out 3 weeks later. I told my landlord it was for work. It wasn't. About 6 months after I left, I ran into a guy from the building at a hardware store, picking up supplies for a job. We got to talking, and I asked, carefully, if anyone had ever moved into 4A. He said no. Said the building was actually trying to get the unit condemned, because something about it kept failing inspection, readings on the electrical panel that didn't make sense, current draws with no appliances plugged in to draw them. Then he said something that I haven't been able to shake since. He said the inspectors who'd gone in to check the wiring all reported the same thing, independently, without talking to each other first. They said the apartment was ice cold except for one spot. The recliner. It was warm. Like someone had just gotten up.